Carlos Alcaraz's decision surprised everyone in Turin. On the morning after his dramatic win against Taylor Fritz, the Spanish star canceled his scheduled training session, a move that immediately sparked speculation across the ATP Finals. According to his team, Alcaraz had planned to train from 12 to 1300 hours on the Sebastopol court with Pedro Vives, a sparring partner from Mallorca who often helps him in key tournaments. But instead of heading to practice, the 22-year-old Mercian decided to take the entire day off. The official explanation? Active recovery. After a grueling 2-hour and 48-minute battle against Fritz, which tested both his physical endurance and mental strength, Alcaraz chose rest over repetition. Those close to the team explained that this is part of a very deliberate pattern, a recharge day strategy that has worked for Carlos and coach Juan Carlos Ferrero during Grand Slam campaigns in the past. Sometimes the best way to prepare is to stop, Ferrero once said after Wimbledon 2023. Carlos doesn't need to train every day. He needs to arrive fresh, mentally sharp and physically explosive. This time that same principle applied. The win against Fritz had been one of the toughest matches of Alcaraz's season. He had to come from behind after losing the first set, finding his rhythm only in the second half of the second set when everything suddenly clicked. By the time he sealed victory, he was visibly exhausted, even taking 2 extra hours before showing up to the post-match press conference, which was delayed from 6:50 to 7:20 p.m. Now, with just one group stage match remaining, a decisive clash against Italy's Lorenzo Musetti, the Spaniard knew the stakes could not be higher. A win on Thursday night would secure him a place in the semi-finals and, depending on other results, put him on the brink of reclaiming the year-end World No.1 ranking. A loss, however, could open the door for Jannik Sinner to take control of the ATP Finals and potentially finish the year on top of the world. It's a delicate balance between recovery and readiness. Sources close to Alcaraz told WorldNews Tennis that his recovery routine was very specific. Deep tissue massage, cryotherapy, stretching, and mental visualization. Carlos treats his off days like training days for the mind, one team member said. He disconnects from the noise, stays off social media, and focuses on energy management. Energy has become a key word in Alcaraz's vocabulary this season. After several long tournaments, from Roland Garros to the US Open, his team learned that the challenge was not only physical endurance, but emotional control. Carlos plays with emotion, Ferrero has often said. When he's smiling, he's unbeatable. When he gets tense, he burns energy. The goal in Turin was simple: arrive to the Musetti match with that trademark Alcaraz energy, fresh, aggressive, and fearless. Still, the pressure was undeniable. Thursday night's match would be his first evening session in the group stage after 8 consecutive afternoon starts. That small detail could matter. Late matches often bring slower court conditions and louder, more intense crowds. And in this case, the 13,000 fans filling the arena would be overwhelmingly on Musetti's side. Alcaraz knows what that feels like. Last year, he lost in the semifinals to Novak Djokovic in a night session that began at 9 p.m. under similar conditions. This time, the goal is to change the ending. It's not easy to play against a home favorite, he said earlier this week. But I like that kind of challenge. You have to earn your space on court, point by point. As the ATP Finals reach their decisive stage, one thing is certain: the rest day is not a sign of weakness. It's the calm before the storm. Because for Carlos Alcaraz, every silence, every pause, every breath, is part of a bigger plan. The tension in Turin rose dramatically as the schedule for the decisive match between Carlos Alcaraz and Lorenzo Musetti was officially changed. Instead of an afternoon slot, the clash was moved into the high-pressure evening session, a move that Italian fans celebrated instantly, but which added another layer of complexity for the Spaniard. This would be Alcaraz's 9th group stage match at the ATP Finals, and the first one played at night. For a player who thrives on rhythm and routine, that shift matters more than people realize. Evening sessions often mean cooler courts, slower conditions, and a different type of atmosphere. The lights are harsher, the crowd louder, and the noise constant. And in Turin, where the home fans worship Musetti, that noise turns into something else entirely: a wall of sound. Alcaraz has lived this atmosphere before. A memory still haunts him: the 2023 semi-final against Novak Djokovic, also played at night, also with the crowd boiling over. He lost that match heavily, admitting afterward that he had struggled to manage the adrenaline and tension. Now, with everything at stake, he is determined not to repeat that mistake. But the pressure surrounding this match is double-edged. If Alex de Minaur were to defeat Taylor Fritz at 2 p.m., Alcaraz would enter the court with the peace of mind of being mathematically qualified. But if Fritz wins, and Fritz is the favorite, Carlos will need to win to secure the semi-final spot. And that's not all. This match could also determine the year-end World No.1, one of the most prestigious achievements in the sport. If Jannik Sinner were to lose his match on Wednesday against Alexander Zverev, Alcaraz could finish the season at the top simply by reaching the semis. If Sinner wins, Carlos must keep winning. Everything is connected. Every match changes the equation. Every point could define the history books. And that's why Alcaraz refused to train, because this Thursday could be the night that decides the entire year. The matchup against Musetti carries its own weight. Carlos leads their head-to-head 6-1, including all 3 matches this year. But every one of those victories came on clay, perhaps the surface where Alcaraz is most dominant. This time they face each other on indoor hard court, where Musetti recently reached the final in Athens with explosive tennis and where the crowd transforms him into something bigger, louder, and more aggressive. Musetti plays with poetry. Alcaraz plays with electricity. On this stage, anything can happen. The Italian arrives with renewed confidence after his stunning comeback against de Minaur, a victory that revived his semi-final chances and filled Turin with hope. The reaction of the 13,000 fans inside the arena after match point said everything. Musetti isn't just a local player, he's a national symbol. Alcaraz will walk into a storm. The match is now set for 8:30 p.m., prime time, the moment when the arena becomes a cauldron. The organizers' decision to place the encounter at that hour guarantees maximum intensity, maximum audience, and maximum pressure. It is, without doubt, the loudest match Carlos will play all year. And yet, strangely, this is exactly the type of battle that transforms Alcaraz. He has said it many times. When the crowd goes against me, I grow. But this time, it's more than a crowd. It's a country. The stakes for Alcaraz. A place in the semi-finals. The chance to reclaim World No.1. A psychological advantage over Sinner. And the continuation of a season that has been both brilliant and turbulent. Everything starts now. Everything depends on Thursday night. The question is simple. Will the silent rest day recharge him enough to face the noise of Turin? Because Musetti has everything to gain, the arena will be a battlefield, and Carlos Alcaraz must walk into it alone. Except for the weight of his mission. Win, survive, and keep the dream of #1 alive. Carlos Alcaraz's win over Taylor Fritz didn't just keep him alive in the tournament. It revealed the exact moment his tennis flipped, the point where exhaustion, doubt, and frustration suddenly transformed into control, confidence, and dominance. And that moment, according to Alcaraz himself, came at 6-5 in the second set. He described it with unusual clarity in the press conference. I couldn't return well. I wasn't feeling comfortable. But at 6-5 I got break points and I had to take advantage. That was the key moment. Until then, Fritz had been dictating. He had been hitting laser-focused serves, crushing returns, dominating baseline exchanges, and forcing Alcaraz deep behind the court. For almost 2 sets, Fritz played some of the best tennis of his career. But Carlos knew something crucial. With a player like Fritz, you don't need many chances. You just need one. And he took it. That single break didn't just give him the set, it gave him his tennis back. From that point on, Alcaraz's shots found depth, his footwork sharpened, and his defensive instincts resurfaced. Suddenly, the court opened up for him. The impossible passing shots, the explosive forehands, the counterattacks that only he can produce, they all began to flow. The third set was almost a formality. A transformed Alcaraz dominated it with a clarity and intensity nowhere to be found earlier. But while the Spaniard highlighted that turning point, Fritz revealed the other side of the story. Fritz, a match of frustration and regret. Taylor Fritz walked into the press conference visibly torn. He started the match brilliantly, played 2 sets at a world-class level, and in his own words, I did a lot of things well today. I created the shot I wanted, but I didn't do enough with it. He admitted physical problems and fatigue during the final stretch, but what bothered him most wasn't his body, it was the missed opportunities. He had Alcaraz on the ropes. He felt that this was the match he could win. But he didn't close. And against players like Alcaraz, matches you don't close are matches you lose. Fritz summed it up with one word: frustration. He praised Alcaraz's defense, calling it incredible, and admitted that the Spaniard's ability to anticipate passing shots left him helpless at key moments. Those regrets will haunt him. Because losing this match didn't just put him in danger in the group standings, it destroyed his chances of finishing first in the group and forced him into a do-or-die situation in the final round. Meanwhile, the battle for world number one intensifies. While Fritz battled disappointment and Alcaraz regained momentum, the tennis world had its eyes on something bigger. The year-end world number one battle between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. This ATP Finals isn't just a tournament. It's a war between the two best players of the season. Both men started the event with victories worth 200 points each. Alcaraz still leads the live rankings by a small margin. Sinner, however, is defending 1,500 points after lifting the title last year without dropping a set. The scenario is simple. If Alcaraz wins 3 matches, he finishes the year as number one regardless of what Sinner does. If Sinner wants to stay number one, he must defend the title, ideally without losing a match. If both keep winning, the mathematics may come down to a direct semi-final or final showdown. Sinner admitted he's watching the scenario closely but added a warning. If he, Alcaraz, plays very well, I have no chance. And then came the part that made headlines. Carlos's early exit in Paris was remarkable. A comment that surprised many, because it suggests Sinner believes Alcaraz's weaker indoor form can return at any moment. This rivalry is not just technical. It's emotional. It's strategic. And in Turin, it is reaching its boiling point. Everything now points toward a potential clash. As Alcaraz prepares for the decisive match against Musetti and Sinner prepares for the showdown with Zverev, every point, every break, and every shot could determine the semi-final lineup, the ATP Finals champion, and the world number one at the end of the year. Carlos Alcaraz is fighting for history. Jannik Sinner is fighting to protect his throne. And the tennis world is watching a rivalry that is becoming the new center of the sport.